Hello everyone, I Kuldeep Sharma welcome you all to today's session on daily news analysis and the 20 GK questions where we are going to do the important news headlines from the Hindu newspaper as well as the Indian Express, and once we are done with the news headlines then we do the 20 GK questions which are uploaded on the portal of the CLAT PREP. Okay, so I hope before you go through these 20 GK questions here, you must first try to attempt them on your own. Because if you look at the questions or the answers first and then attempt it, then the exercise would not reap any dividend. So that's why first go through the questions, try to attempt it, then look at the daily news analysis, and then look at the answers for 20 GK. So now let's start with the today's session. So let's start with the first news from the Hindu newspaper. So last yesterday also I did this exercise. So many students might have missed out on the informed voter quiz, which is coming on right now because there is a Lok Sabha election going to commence very soon. So three questions. Yesterday's answers are also given here. Yesterday's question were also good. Today's question are also very good. For example, what is the process of dividing the nations into different electoral constituencies for the purpose of election known as? तो बेसिकली जो बाउंड्रीज को अपन डिवाइड करते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल कि अगर मैं ये ऐसे ड्रॉ करूं और यहाँ पे देयर वुड बी स्टेट ऑफ राजस्थान, तो राजस्थान के एज ऑफ नाउ लोकसभा की 25 कॉन्स्टिट्युएंसीज हैं विच इज इक्वली डिवाइडेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ पॉपुलेशन. However, this exercise is to be done after every census. So हर census के बाद करनी थी, but because of the difference in population or the change in the population difference between north and the southern state since 1976, we haven't done this exercise. And this question is regarding what is that exercise known as. तो actually उस exercise को अपन बोलते हैं delimitation exercise. Delimitation exercise. डिलिमिटेशन वर्ड का एक्चुअल में यहाँ मीनिंग होता है रीड्रॉइंग ऑफ बाउंड्रीज. It means redrawing of boundaries only, delimitation exercise. Next, what is the maximum strength of members representing the states in the Lok Sabha? So as you may know, Lok Sabha के अंदर there is a representation given to the states as well as to the union territories. Okay, so the question here is basically how many states, states get, how many seats are reserved, how many seats are there for representation of the states. So if you may know that the maximum strength as per the constitution of the Lok Sabha is 550. Earlier it was 552. So now it is 550, and the present strength of the Lok Sabha is right now 543. Earlier it was 545. So earlier there were two seats reserved for the Anglo-Indian community, but recently only we have removed that reservation, and now we have the maximum strength is 550 and the present strength is 540. Out of this 543 seats, 524 states, 524 seats are for the representatives of states, and 19 seats are there for representatives of union territories. Okay, so in total there are 540 seats, 543 seats, 524 are for the states, and 19 seats are for the union territories. So this is the answer for second. So the answer for second is actually 524. Next, third question, another interesting question. Which Lok Sabha election witnessed the least number of candidates with 1,519 candidates contesting the post? तो बेसिकली सबसे कम लोकसभा कैंडिडेट्स किस इलेक्शन के अंदर फॉट करे थे? तो आंसर हियर वुड बी 1957, which is the second लोकसभा इलेक्शन. फर्स्ट लोकसभा इलेक्शन आपका 51-52 में हुआ था, and second took place in the year 1957. And in that election, because there was a change in the number of states also, states की boundaries भी redraw हुई थी, नई states भी create हुई थी. Because of this, there was certain changes in the number of candidates. So in 1957, the least number of candidates actually participated. So now let's move to the news headlines for today. So first news which has come up on the front page of the Hindu newspaper today, as well as the Indian Express, is regarding a operation done by the security forces in the state of Chhattisgarh. So Chhattisgarh, and this action or this operation was done against the Maoist. Maoist or Naxals. Maoists and Naxals, and it was a successful operation. And 29 Maoists or militants, internal militants. I don't know if it is correct to be call them militants, but 29 Maoists were shot dead by the armed forces in Kankar in Chhattisgarh. So let's understand what Maoism or Naxalism or what this issue is basically. So Naxalism is an Indian ideology or is a Indian version of Maoism. So Maoism or Naxalism is one and the same thing for us. अभी understanding के लिए. And Naxalism means basically ideology. So it's an ideology which believes in armed struggle or armed overthrow, the armed struggle against the government. So it believes that the government is only, the creation of a government is only a way by rich and powerful person. This the government is actually a way by which rich and powerful persons actually exploit the poor. So it is their underlying belief, and the only solution to end the exploitation of the poor is to overthrow the government violently. So this is the basic ideology of Naxalism movement or of the Maoist movement of the world. Naxalism is particular to India, and Maoist is an international movement. So let's look at the history of Naxalism. From where did this name come around? So Naxalism actually comes from a village known as Naxalbari. Naxalbari, which is a village in the state of West Bengal. So in the year 1967, in the year 1967, there was a Naxalbari movement. And it was a movement based on Maoism only. So two person, Charu Majumdar and Kanu Sanyal, they actually launched a armed protest or a armed revolt, yeah, armed protest against landlords. तो वहां पे जो लैंडलॉर्ड्स थे, जो लैंड्स थे, उन पे पीजेंट के अगेंस्ट बहुत एक्सप्लॉइटेटिव प्रैक्टिस हो रही थी. तो these were educated people, they have studied about Maoism. So चारू मजूमदार और कानू सान्याल ने वहां पे जो लोग थे, वहां पे जो पीजेंट थे जिनके साथ एक्सप्लॉइटेशन हो रहा था, उनको आई थिंक ब्रेन वॉश भी कह सकते हैं या उनको टीच भी कर सकते हैं, उनको माओइज्म समझाया. एंड दे टोल्ड देम कि वी देयर इज नो अदर सॉल्यूशन बट टू टेक arms in our hand and to fight against these landlords and practices. तो यहां से ये मूवमेंट स्टार्ट हुआ एंड धीरे धीरे ये वायलेंट मूवमेंट आपके डिफरेंट स्टेट्स के अंदर रीच हुआ. एंड एट वन पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम अराउंड 50% ऑफ इंडियाज टेरिटरी was infected by Naxalism. So as of now, which is the main state जहां पे सबसे ज्यादा you can see Naxalism, the most important state या सबसे ज्यादा most affected left-wing extremist state is actually the state of Chhattisgarh. So apart from Chhattisgarh, the state of Jharkhand, the state of Odisha, the state of Bihar still have a large left-wing extremism or Naxalism problem. Apart from it, it still exists in its origin state of West Bengal, parts of Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. And apart from it, at the third step, to a very limited extent, it is also can be seen in the state of UP and MP, but to a very less extent. So very less districts are affected by the Naxalism problem in UP and MP. So I hope you have some idea ki where this Naxalism problem is going on, what is the history behind it. Now let's look at what are the causes of Naxalism movement, ki why these people has taken up arms against them. So one is the flow of radical ideas. One is the flow of radical ideas. So basically, these people who have these radical ideas of Maoism, they actually kind of, at least if you will read the Ministry of Home Affairs, there they say कि these people have been brainwashed by these ideologues. जो ideologues हैं, जो इस ideology में believe करते हैं, उन्होंने इस ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन को, जो बैकवर्ड पॉपुलेशन है, उनको ब्रेन वॉश कर दिया है कि ओनली सॉल्यूशन इन इंडिया टू to come out of this exploitation is by a violent or armed revolt only. तो आर्म्ड रिवोल्ट करेंगे तभी अपने को सॉल्यूशन मिलेगा, बिकॉज ऑफ विच मेनी पीपल इन दिस बैकवर्ड एरियाज गेट अट्रैक्टेड टू दिस नक्सल प्रॉब्लम. ओके, सो मेन रीजन ये. इसके अलावा एक मेजर रीजन इज पॉवर्टी आल्सो, एंड एक्चुअली देयर इज एक्सप्लॉइटेशन. इट इज नॉट लाइक कि एक्सप्लॉइटेशन नहीं होता. Everywhere, wherever there are rich and powerful people, they try to exploit the poor. तो poverty भी रीजन है, एक्सप्लॉइटेशन रीजन है. उसके अलावा लैक ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, लैक ऑफ गवर्नेंस. तो गवर्नेंस का जो मॉडल है, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन भी है, वो इन एरियाज के अंदर उतना एक्टिवली नहीं होता. सो जो अपन फॉर ग्रांटेड लेते हैं सर्विसेज, पब्लिक यूटिलिटी लाइक इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, क्लीन वाटर एक्सेट्रा, हेल्थ सर्विसेज एक्सेट्रा, एजुकेशन एक्सेट्रा, वो सब एक्चुअली इस बैकवर्ड एरियाज में अवेलेबल नहीं होता है. सो इसलिए जो माओइस्ट होते हैं वो उनका ब्रेन वॉश करना, उनको इन लोगों को अपने साइड में कर पाना बहुत ईजी होता है. Because of this, Maoism has spread to many regions. However, the government, after realizing that it is a big problem, has started taking action, and it has taken a two-pronged strategy, two-way strategy, two-sided strategy. One is based on development in this area, and the other is based on security measures. So, development wise क्या कि आप यहाँ पे एजुकेशन और हेल्थ को फोकस करोगे. नीति आयोग डिफरेंट प्रोग्राम्स लॉन्च करता है. फॉर एग्जांपल एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्रोग्राम, जिसके अंदर आप डिफरेंट डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स को टारगेट करते हो, लेफ्ट विंग डिस्ट्रिक्ट को टारगेट करते हो, और उसके लिए स्पेसिफिक गोल्स क्रिएट करते हो फॉर डेवलपमेंट पर. एट द सेम टाइम सिक्योरिटी के लिए भी आप डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ ऑपरेशन लॉन्च करते हो, लाइक ऑपरेशन ग्रीन. ये एक बहुत मेजर ऑपरेशन था जिसमें आपने एक बार का जो पूरे एरिया, जो नक्सल इन्फेक्टेड एरियाज हैं, उसमें अपनी फुल फोर्सेस को यूज करके एक बार का सिक्योरिटी और लॉ एंड ऑर्डर को कंट्रोल में लाया. इसके अलावा आप एमनेस्टी स्कीम भी लॉन्च करते रहते हो, रिलीफ एंड रिहैब प्रोग्राम्स. फॉर एग्जांपल, लेट्स से कि यू आर अ विलेजर who got involved in Naxali activities. However, after some point you realize कि it is not the right way to find out a solution. India is a democratic country, and there is a possibility of finding a solution with dialogue also. तो आप चाहते हो कि गवर्नमेंट आपको वापस अलाउ करे, तो उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट डिफरेंट स्कीम्स भी लॉन्च करती है, विच आर नोन एज एमनेस्टी स्कीम, रिलीफ एंड रिहैब, कि आपको माफ कर दिया जाएगा और आप वापस से सोसाइटी में जुड़ सकते हो. तो इस टाइप के प्रोग्राम्स भी गवर्नमेंट लॉन्च करती है. तो ओके, सो आई होप दिस इज द होल शॉर्ट ओवरव्यू, ब्रीफ ओवरव्यू ऑफ व्हाट द इश्यू ऑफ नक्सलिज्म इन इंडिया इज. कभी टाइम मिलेगा और कभी ये डिटेल में और कुछ भी इस न्यूज में आया तो वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस नक्सलिज्म इन डिटेल अगेन. ओके, सो दिस मच इज इनफ फॉर दिस न्यूज. Moving on. So now let's look at the editorial section. So again, I hope you know Israel-Iran war जो है, ईरान वॉर नहीं, हॉस्टिलिटीज तो ये पहले भी कंटिन्यू हो रही थी, बट नाउ इट हैज टेकन अ वेरी वाइड स्कोप और वाइड स्केल पे होने लग गई हैं. सो लेट्स लुक एट द हिस्ट्री अगेन. तो इफ यू मे नो, इसराइल ने अप्रैल 1 को, 1 अप्रैल को एक अप्रैल फूल का एक्ट किया, और इसने एक्चुअल में सीरिया कंट्री के अंदर जो ईरान की एम्बेसी थी या कॉन्सुलेट था, उसके ऊपर ड्रोन अटैक कर दिया. ऑल्दो इसराइल ने ओपन में नहीं बोला, बट एवरीवन नोज दैट दिस अटैक वाज डन बाय इसराइल. एंड इफ यू नो द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ एन एम्बेसी और कॉन्सुलेट इन अ फॉरेन कंट्री, यू वुड नो कि फॉर ऑल प्रैक्टिकल पर्पस जो कॉन्सुलेट होता है, इट इज जस्ट लाइक द टेरिटरी ऑफ दैट कंट्री. और उस पर ड्रोन अटैक करा, एंड उसके अंदर में एक तो इनके मेजर जनरल, मेजर एक मिलिट्री ऑफिसर, अब मेजर मिलिट्री ऑफिसर जो इनके सीक्रेट सर्विस से बिलोंग करता था, एंड अनदर 5 ऑफिसर्स वर किल्ड इन दिस अटैक. And there was a meeting going on, and Israel must have known about it somehow, and it actually attacked the major military officials of Iran in this attack. And after this attack happened, Iran actually warned everyone and told everyone that it is going to take retaliatory action. And because of this, on April 14th, just 2-3 days ago, Iran actually launched a massive missile attack on Iran. Around 300 missiles, drones, etc. were launched on the state of Israel. So it was first time. It was for the first time that Iran actually attacked Israel directly. So Iran had never attacked Israel directly. It was attacking Israel through its proxies, through using terrorist organization, etc. But for the first time, Iran directly attacked Israel. And although 99% of the missiles which were launched was intercepted, so around 99% of the missiles were intercepted. So no actual harm was caused to Israel, but still it was a massive action. It was for the first time a direct action was taken by one state against the other in the Middle East. And here the author or here the editorial board is arguing that it's time that Israel should also step down. Israel should not retaliate. However, Israel, if you would be reading today's newspaper or if you would be reading the current headlines, you will find out that Israel leaders are saying that we are going to take retaliate action against Iran. Iran has already warned Israel and other nations that if Israel is going to attack Iran, then the action which Iran is going to be taking would be very prompt and would be much more destructive. So this is the current issue. Now, how one more thing which happened in this attack was that 99% of the missiles which were intercepted was not just by the Israeli system, but it was also with the help of US, UK, France, and Jordan. So missile defense system which were supplied by these countries and which were also in the Jordan country. Jordan is another country near to Israel, which shares border with Israel. Although it is a Muslim country, Jordan is a Muslim country, and it is actually working against another Muslim country, and it is actually helping a Jewish country. So you can understand the problem with the Jordanian government would be facing by this. However, it was a joint work by these countries also. So this also helped us to understand that which are the countries which are on the side of Israel in this war. So as of now, we understand that the Western countries are directly, actively helping Israel when it's come to war against Iran. However, let's understand the backdrop also that why this action has happened. So, as you may know, that there has been a war going on between Israel and Gaza, or I should be very specific, between Israel and Hamas, which is a militant organization. So, on October 7th of 2023, Hamas, which is a militant organization right now in Gaza, actually attacked Israel. And what it did, it actually killed certain number of people and actually took hostage around 250 people, 230 to 50 people. And some 200 people are still in the custody of Hamas only, and Israel is trying to wage a war against Hamas to free these hostages. So what Israel has been doing since then is that Israel is doing a kind of a genocidal act now. So actually many countries including US has been trying to change the mind of Israelis leadership that it should not retaliate in such a way that it is even targeting the civilian population which is existing right now in the Gaza Strip and as well as the West Bank. However, many countries including South Africa has already filed a case against Israel in the International Court of Justice that what Israel is doing is genocide, and because of which Israel is also under international pressure to stop its warfare. It is not like everyone is in support of Israel. Even Israeli allies like US, UK, etc., are asking Israel to practice restraint. It should not be targeting civilian population because in this age of internet, in this age of revolution, information technology revolution, IT revolution, every photo or video, every action of Israel, which is wrong, is being showcased to all the world, okay, all around the world. So it is nothing is hidden from the world now. So there is a pressure on Israel also to be very restrictive in its practice. And this actually the author or the editorial board here is arguing that the fact that the Israel has been able to tackle this attack, that 99% of the missiles were intercepted by Israel, should be taken as a win. And taking it as a win and taking it as a step that in taking it as a learning that Israel should now step back. Israel should not increase the conflict between Iran and Israel now. Reason being that if Iran and Israel get involved into this war, then there can be a full regional problem now, because Iran and Israel have allies in this region, and the other countries would also have to become part of this war. And we never know if this would turn out, if it can become a global war also, and it can be your World War III also. So that's why the editorial board of the Hindu here is advising that it is the right time that Israel should take a stand. Okay, so this is the context, or this is the explanation of the editorial which has been come up. Has come up in the moving on. Next is a article by Shashi Tharoor, who is a very famous author also, and also a Congress MP from Thiruvananthapuram. So he has written an article, and he has given a kind of a warning that the 2024 Lok Sabha election जो होने वाले हैं आपके, it is kind of a referendum. It is a referendum on the India's future. So one question which you should answer, I think I'll tell you in the next class. What do you understand by referendum? Do you understand by referendum? Referendum का क्या meaning होता है ये बताइए. So here he has argued in the initial passages when he is introducing it that this the last 10 years has converted India into an electoral autocracy. So rather than a democracy, we have become an electoral autocracy. So what do you understand by electoral autocracy? The Shashi Tharoor here means that although there is a election, however, once a election happens, the government is not functioning like a democratic body, but as a autocratic state. And what is a autocratic state? Autocratic state is a state which is not answerable to anyone, unlike a democracy where the government is answerable to people. So once you win the election, once you have taken approval from the majority of the public for once in 5 years, उसके बाद आप जो भी कर रहे हो, that is autocratic in nature. You are not listening to anyone. You are doing what you believe is the correct. Okay, so now India has converted into an electoral autocracy. Moreover, he is pointing out here that all the institutions of India, your courts, your Election Commission of India, have been hijacked, which means now they are not autonomous anymore, or the level of autonomy has degraded so much that they are kind of working like a BJP body only, or BJP organization. Next, now he is criticizing BJP as a party doing politics of hate. That this party is actually involved in politics of hate. It is allowing vigilantism. So जो इसकी fringe organization है, for example, here example of Bajrang Dal and other right wing extremist organization can be given. ये उनको free hand दे रही है, and actually they are attacking the minorities in India. So rather than the police and the government authorities, these organizations have become like a vigilant, and now they are controlling the law and order in different parts of India. So the author is arguing BJP is getting involved in these kind of actions. And if anyone is opposing the policies of BJP, they are tagged as anti-national. So they give the tag of anti-national to those people who is opposing this. So that's why the author has said that 2024 is like a referendum. Let me explain you. Let me tell you what this referendum is. Referendum basically means the views or the final decision or decision of the people of a country, decision of the people on a particular issue. It is the final decision or views of the people on a particular issue. For example, when he is saying it's a referendum on India's future, so basically what he is saying is कि 2024 के इलेक्शन में आप किस पार्टी को वोट करते हो, इससे डिसाइड होगा कि इंडिया का फ्यूचर क्या है. व्हाट इज द पर्टिकुलर इशू हियर? इंडियाज फ्यूचर. एंड रेफरेंडम भी कि बेसिकली व्यू क्या है, अब आगे के लोग क्या चाहते हैं, इंडिया में क्या होना चाहिए. ओके, सो दिस इज व्हाट. After this, he has talked about from here on, much has changed. He is talking about the history of election and how Congress has been at the forefront of fighting communalism in India and such kind of autocratic nature in India. For example, starting from 1951-52, when the first Lok Sabha election placed, it wasn't like that the Congress was automatically a secular country or a secular party. There were many people in the Congress party itself, and one of them, Purushottam Das Tandon, who actually became president, he was of same views as the BJP right now, or as he claimed. For example, that president, Shashi Tharoor says that that president believes that Hindus are actually should be the majority community and they are above the minorities. So it is them who should be having the right. However, Jawaharlal Nehru and other prominent people in Congress believe that the path which is which Congress is taking right now is not the correct path, and actually they kind of revolted by resigning from certain posts, etc. And finally, it was the president of Congress at that time, Purushottam Das Tandon, who has to resign because if these people would have resigned, then Congress would not have been able to win elections. So again, it was the fact of election which led to change in minds of people who were there in Congress also. So this is the history which he has provided. Next, he is talking about a quest to translate a vision into a reality. Now he's talking about Jawaharlal Nehru and what the objectives he had in mind. And how did Congress and Nehru together and the later on prime ministers also took forward the ideas which were uh, raised by Ambedkar, etc. For example, providing with social justice or ensuring such social democracy in India, which was one of the vision of Ambedkar, and how different policies of the Congress since independence and up to the UPA era has been helpful in developing these kind of principles. So this is what it has been arguing. So all of this is regarding that history. Also, he is also here. He also talking about how the parliament, how Pakistan has been trying to destabilize India and how the policies of the Congress have been helpful in keeping India together also. And finally, he is concluding with how the 2024 election is going to a battle again. So here he is saying, talking about different facts that again, this would be the largest elections here and probably around, it is already known that around 96 crore people are going to vote in this election. So, which is the largest election ever to occur on anywhere in any country in the world. Okay, so here he's trying to give a warning that it is very important that this time the people of India vote on the correct issues like education or health issues, etc. What type of government policies should be there with regard to minorities, etc. And what should be the ideas which a country should follow. So these are the conclusion which has been given in this handout. So again, I have taught you this particular article not for the GK purpose, but for critical reasoning and for English purposes. Obviously, whenever you find an article is written by Shashi Tharoor, I would always advise you that you should read it because his English is exceptional, and many a times you can actually find an article written by Shashi Tharoor only in your exam. So it becomes important that you go through articles written by him. Apart from it, for critical reasoning also, it is very important. So because you will, when you read articles from such authors, you get a structure of it. So whenever a question can comes up regarding secularism, if it comes about if it comes about election also, then getting at least arguments of one side of Congress side would be very helpful for you. So that's why you should refer such kind of articles. Moving on. So next news is regarding navigating life as a consumer with disability. So again, um, it is a very it is a article related to legal issue regarding what are the difficulties being faced by a person who by a disabled person when it comes to consumer rights. So in this article, if you start reading this article, you will find one fact which is also a GK fact is when do you celebrate your consumer rights day? So we celebrate it every year on March 15th. So in the first line itself, you will find this out. After this, he is giving you an example at what are the problems which is faced by a visually impaired person. So whenever a visually impaired person, he's asking you to imagine if a visually impaired person goes to a supermarket, what would be the problem he has to face. So, for example, he's giving an example that first he has to book a cab to go to the store. Then he should be able to access that app. So first difficulty which he would be facing is in the house itself when he is in the house. That is booking a cab on the app. So first step is that only. Once he reaches the supermarket, he has to move here and there to find the particular product which he has to get. Once he gets the product, then he has to make a payment also. So again, for payment, either he has to take cash, and now since we are using UPI, so he would be using a digital payment. So again, he needs to get it. After it, there would be a slip provided to him, etc. Now, either he should be able to read it, or he requires help from someone else to find out what else is written in the slip, whether the items which he has bought it from the supermarket is matching from the slip or not. So, accordingly, there would be many problems a visually impaired person is going to face. So now he's arguing that every single day, these kind of problems which we do not face ever is the part of daily life of a visually impaired person, or a for any kind of a disabled person. So person with disability, um, a person who does not have hands, who does not have legs, who is lacking in some kind of senses, is going to face one or the other such kind of disability. So next, he's arguing the potential change makers. So now he's telling us what are the responsible players, or who are the responsible players who can actually bring change to such kind of situation. So first thing he's arguing is regarding the business. So business owners should be the first one to tackle such kind of problems. And whenever they design a product, whenever, for example, if someone is making a biscuit, he's making a biscuit, or he's packaging a biscuit, he should make sure that there should be some kind of identification mark which can be actually identified by a disabled person also. Moreover, apart from it, what else business owners can do is that they can do market research. The next thing he's saying is that you can do market research to exactly find out what are the requirements of a disabled person. Next, apart from business owners, he is also arguing that government is another important player. So one thing which the government can do is that it can actually frame guidelines for businesses, which they can follow when they do such kind of practices. And it has given examples of different things with like the FSSAI. As for example, it issued an advisory to food operators that they provide with QR codes from which certain information can be given to a visually impaired person, etc. So whatever information regarding that food is there, the person can scan the QR code and find out the requisite information from it. So these are some of the guidelines that he has given. Next, he is talking about legal reform. So what are the legal reforms which have been done, and what all else reforms we can do in the legal area? So here he is talking about Rights of Personalities, Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016. So it was a very forward act, and it was a very reformist act, and it actually provided certain rights to people with disability. तो जो people with disabilities हैं इनको बहुत सारे rights provide करे गए, which included consumer rights also. For example, they ask all the organizations, all the business establishment to provide for ramps, so that if a person is disabled, he can actually come on a wheelchair also. For example, wheelchair access. So ramps दीजिए, plus there should be a wheelchair available at all such business establishment कि person भी खुद आ जाए. के अलावा there has been changes or requirements in information technology goods also. कि आपको ट्राई करना है. फॉर एग्जांपल, if you will visit, for example, the Indian Express news website or Hindu website, and if you go through any article, there would be a option to listen to that article also, which means visually impaired person can listen to that article. Apart from it, there are many new applications and gadgets being developed. For example, to use those apps and gadget, again, person, if there is a word document, that can be converted into a podcast also. So this is a facility which you can use from the websites also. And apart from it, there are certain apps and gadgets through which you can convert a written article into a podcast also. So these are some of the benefits. Okay. Apart from it, he's talking about the Consumer Protection Act. So apart from it, he's talking about Consumer Protection Act. So this act you are going to study in your legal classes also. And here he is talking about the power which has been given to Consumer Commission. कंज्यूमर कमीशन होते हैं जिसके अगेंस्ट अगर आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम हो तो आप कंज्यूमर कमीशन में केस फाइल करते हैं एंड इनको एम्पावर किया गया है टू इम्पोज पेनल्टीज एंड अवार्ड कंपनसेशन इफ एनी सच बिजनेस एस्टेब्लिशमेंट और द गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट डूइंग देयर वर्क प्रॉपरली. अगर कहीं पर डिसेबल्ड लोगों को कुछ फैसिलिटी प्रोवाइड करनी है और अगर वो प्रोवाइड नहीं करते हैं तो उनके अगेंस्ट एक्शन भी लिया जा सकता है. एंड हियर ही इज ऑल्सो प्रोवाइडिंग यू विथ अ स्पेसिफिक एग्जाम्पल ऑल्सो. For example, there is this one case mentioned as Suresh versus the manager IC Gokulam Cinemas, where because a person was having locomotor disability and he was not able to access the cinema hall, a compensation of 1 lakh was provided. Okay, so all of this has been provided. इसके बाद इन्होंने कुछ और रिफॉर्म्स भी बताए हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि आप राइट्स को और इनको ज्यादा एक्सेसिबल बना सकते हो अगर आप कंज्यूमर अवेयरनेस पे फोकस करो. तो हियर ही इज ऑल्सो टॉकिंग अबाउट कि आपको कंज्यूमर अवेयरनेस बढ़ानी पड़ेगी स्पेसिफिकली विद पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज सो दैट they are able to enjoy their rights properly. Okay, so this is with regard to this particular news article. Moving on, now next is your reforms needed in the voting process. So again, in the text and context section of the Hindu newspaper, so what all reforms are required in the voting process has been mentioned. So certain facts are given. So I'll always advise you whenever you see a explainer section, you should always read it properly because direct question can come up from it. So whenever you come across this such kind of articles, first you should read the gist also because you will find out the gist or the summary of this article here on. And by reading this, you can have an idea whether you need to read this article fully or you can partially read it or you can have a cursory reading also. For example, the gist also you know about EVMs. So from in which year the EVMs were used for the first time on a trial basis. Okay. Apart from it, here they are talking about although EVMs have disadvantage, there have been doubts about EVMs functioning also. And one of the oft repeated doubt is that EVMs can be hacked. So there can be tampering of EVM is also possible. So, and finally, here they are arguing that in a transparent democracy, each citizen must be able to comprehend, verify the steps of election process. So, whatever steps are there in a particular election, every citizen should know how to verify. Okay. So now, why it has come up? Because there is a case going on wherein the petitioners have been arguing that all the EVMs, 100% EVM, should be verified with VVPAT technology. Voter verified paper audit technology. So we have done it before, but I'll again explain it. So when you go to vote, there you put your thumb, not your thumb, sorry, but you actually press a button on the electronic voting machine. So let's say if you want to vote for BJP or Congress, you will vote for that particular symbol and the name of the candidate on the EVM machine. And there is a particular machine known as the VVPAT, which is connected to the EVM. So on the VVPAT machine, you will actually see a paper slip being generated of the vote for the political party for which you have given. It would be visible to you for some seconds, and then that vote or that slip will get into the drop box. So exercise is done on a multiple number of assembly constituency. And once the elections are over, the Election Commission of India do not match the EVM votes with VVPAT for all the constituency, but it is limited to 5 polling booths for each constituency. And now they are arguing it should not be limited to 5 polling booths, but to n number of polling booths. If there are 100 polling booths, it should be VVPAT should be cross-checked with 100 with all of these. And one update regarding this news item is that the Supreme Court has actually rejected this petition. Right now, the hearing is going on. However, now the Supreme Court stated that this is not required, and in the 2024 election, whatever the previous process was going on, it would be continued. Now, here you will study about what is the history of voting process. So, we have already covered it before also that the first Lok Sabha election took place in the year 1952, the next after 5 years in the 1957. So here it is being explained that in the initial years there was no voter ID card, etc. Each candidate was given a election symbol and there was separate ballot box. So every candidate, every election candidate was having a separate election vote. And if you wanted to vote for that person, you had to put a vote in that person's ballot box. So there was separate ballot box for separate election. However, later on, there was single ballot boxes, and a ballot paper was given to you on which you could tick or you could put a thumb imprint on the particular person on to which you want to give your vote, and then you used to put that vote into that ballot box. And finally, the voting was used to that counting used to happen, and whoever used to get the maximum number of ballot paper used to win the election. However, after some time, when technology got improved, we shifted to EVMs. And EVMs for the first time were being used on a trial basis in a 1982 election in Kerala. Okay? In Kerala, it was used. Later on, we started using EVMs in 2001. So there was a gap of 20 years between that. But in 2001, we used EVMs in assembly elections of 4 5 states. However, it was the elections of 2004 Lok Sabha election when we used EVMs in all our constituencies. So EVMs for the first time were used in all the elections. Then came the 2019 Lok Sabha election. And in the 2019 Lok Sabha election, we used EVMs along with VVPAT in all the constituencies. So all the constituency there was a VVPAT and it was connected with the EVM machine since the 2019 Lok Sabha election. So this is a short summary or history of voting process in India, and it forms a very important part for your preparation with regard to GK. So इलेक्शंस के ऊपर क्वेश्चन आता है तो बहुत सारे अच्छे क्वेश्चन आपको यहाँ से मिलेंगे. So be very thorough with the reading of this passage. Next, what are some international practices? So practices which are being done by different countries is being told. So you can actually read it. You might find something important, but as of now for GK, you won't find anything. Next, it is talking about what are the features of EVM. So it is talking about EVMs now. So EVM, why it is important? Because when we started using electronic voting machine, जो booth capturing वाली होती थी. So if you will see any पुरानी कोई आप हिंदी मूवीज देखोगे इलेक्शन का कुछ दिखा रहे होंगे तो यू विल सी की some goons will come to a booth and there they will take away those ballot boxes and they would put the name of the person they want to win to in that ballot box and finally जो गुंडा होता है he actually wins the election. तो इस टाइप की स्टोरीज होती थी. However, EVMs के बाद होने के बाद booth capturing became zero because why? Because you cannot actually put votes into EVM because there is a full process. For example, a person, these EVM machines are connected to a controlling unit and a particular person is sitting there. And let's say if you come there and take away that EVM machine, it is very easy to find out that this machine has been violated and an election can be done on a later stage. So booth capturing का phenomena था, it also. इसके बाद invalid votes. So earlier there was a problem of invalid votes also. For example, आपके पास ballot paper होगा, उसमें let's say दो candidates हैं, and आपने जो thumb imprint करा है वो ढंग से नहीं करा, आपने बीच में कहीं कर दिया. So your vote become invalid because it is not clear for whom you have voted. Let's say again क्योंकि paper था तो हो सकता है ballot paper ही फट गया हो. So because of this also आपका vote unregistered माना जाएगा, invalid माना जाएगा. Because but EVM के अंदर ये problems नहीं आती. और तो यहाँ पे हो सकता है आप गलत बटन प्रेस कर ले बट आपने अगर एक बार बटन प्रेस कर लिया तो आपका वोट रिकॉर्ड हो जाएगा. So this problem has also been resolved by this. Okay. Next is because also it's environment friendly also. How it is environment friendly? Because EVMs आपकी टेक्नोलॉजी में होता है there is no use of paper. बैलेट पेपर के अंदर आप पेपर यूज कर रहे थे बट नाउ यू आर नॉट यूजिंग एनी पेपर. ऑल्सो दीज आर एनर्जी एफिशिएंट ऑल्सो. इसके अंदर जो ईवीएम को रन करने के लिए आपको बहुत ज्यादा व्हाट शुड आई से आपको इलेक्ट्रिसिटी भी बहुत ज्यादा रिक्वायर नहीं होती. तो अगेन फॉर टू रीजन इट इज एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली. So these are some of the advantages which have been given here in the for the EVMs also. You can understand that. इसके बाद कुछ disadvantages भी दिए हुए हैं. Disadvantages majorly क्या है? Not disadvantage. What are the doubts? So one of the doubts which many political parties and civil societies raise from time to time is that they believe that EVMs can be tampered. That because they are electronic device and like any other electronic device, EVMs can also be tampered. However, one thing which you should know is that actually Election Commission of India last time in 2019 election, it actually asked political parties to come forward it give an open challenge. It gave an open challenge to political parties to come to the Election Commission of India and prove that these can be had. And none of the political parties was able to clarify. Next, so next thing is, so although it cannot be tampered, it is not like that there have not been any mismatches in the votes with वीवीपैट. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि ईवीएम पे अगर आपके वोट रजिस्टर्ड हुए हैं और वीवीपीएटी में काउंट करे गए हैं तो उसमें मिसमैच नहीं है. However, जो मिसमैच आया भी गया है, इट हैज नॉट बीन सो सिग्निफिकेंट कि एक रीवोटिंग एक्सेट्रा रिक्वायर्ड, विच मीन्स कि ईवीएम्स को आप रिलाय कर सकते हो. तो एज ऑफ नाउ यू कैन सी कि जो डाउट्स रेज करे भी जा रहे हैं वो इतने वैलिड नहीं है. However, because this article is also arguing कि ट्रांसपेरेंट डेमोक्रेसी के अंदर ईच सिटीजन के पास वो एबिलिटी होनी चाहिए कि वो प्रोसेस को समझ भी पाए और उसको वेरीफाई भी कर पाए. तो व्हाट द वे फॉरवर्ड दिस इज आर्ग्यूइंग इज कि अगर 100% अगर अपन वीवीपीएटी को क्रॉस चेक कर लें तो जो फेथ होगा डेमोक्रेसी के अंदर, जो फेथ होगा इस प्रिंसिपल के अंदर, वो आपका इंटैक्ट रहेगा. दिस वोंट गेट. तो एक रीजन ये बता रहे हैं इसको करने के लिए. तो रेदर देन यूजिंग योर ईवीपीएटी मैचिंग इन सर्टेन कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज, we can extend it to a larger number of EVMs. For example, rather than doing it in 5-10 constituencies or 5-10 polling booth, we can actually extend it to 20 or 25. And some other totalizer machine, etc., have also been given as a solution, which is the final way forward by this particular article. So again, it will be advisable, it would be beneficial for you if you will read this article. Okay. Moving on. Now moving on to the IMF, to the Indian Express newspaper now. So in the Indian Express, so the first news which has come up is that International Monetary Fund, which is one of the body of World Bank, it has come up with a report. That report is known as World Economic Outlook. तो ये पर्टिकुलर रिपोर्ट है विच इज बीइंग पब्लिश बाय आईएमएफ. एंड हियर दे आर सेइंग कि जो जीडीपी है इंडिया की इन फाइनेंशियल 25, इट विल बी 6.8, which is more than, which is actually not more than but less than the 2024 prediction. So it is saying कि इसका जो ग्रोथ है इंडिया का वो एक्चुअल में डिक्रीज हो जाएगा इन द ईयर 2025. ओके. एंड अगर द गुड न्यूज इज कि जो फाइनेंशियल 2024 की इन्होंने ग्रोथ रेट बताई 7.8%, इट इज हायर देन व्हाट इवन आवर बॉडी एनएसओ हैज सेड. Our own body, National Statistical Office, has stated that India's GDP would grow by 7.6%. However, the IMF is projecting that in the financial year of 24, we are going to increase our GDP by 7.8%, which is a good thing. So I just wanted to cover this news to cover this. So for your purposes, you should know this only, that World Economic Outlook is a particular report being published by which of the following organization. For example, it can be World Bank, IMF, etc. And you should know that it is being published by World Economic Outlook. And you should know this key, these facts like what is the projected GDP growth for financial 25-24. These kind of facts are actually not asked in your exam. Very rarely these kind of facts come up. However, whenever such kind of news come up, you are supposed to read it, because you will understand कि whenever such reports come up, how market is behaving. So you can know whenever a positive news is given by an international organization, market is going to rise because the sentiments become better. The expectation, the market expectation, the expectation of the consumers is better off. So this is the news which was covered in the Indian Express as well as the Hindu newspaper. So ये वाली news भी आपको read करनी होती. Moving on, Indian Express के अंदर ही. So again, we are looking at this editorial, a good augury. A lot hinges on monsoon and bumper kharif harvest, and government must abolish 40% import duty on wheat. So as you may know, yesterday we covered also that IMD has predicted that this year monsoon is going to be above normal. So what is normal monsoon? So अगर हम लॉन्ग पीरियड एवरेज निकालते हैं कि रेगुलरली क्या बारिश हो रही है, तो वी कैन टेक इट एज 100% कि 100% वुड बी कंसिडर्ड एज नॉर्मल मानसून, इट इज एक्चुअली 87 सेंटीमीटर. So, however, IMD is claiming this year the rainfall is going to be more than normal, which is 106%. And this is based on the prediction that this year El Nino is waning or weakening, and it would be La Nina phase. And whenever we have a La Nina phase, we are going to have a good monsoon. And whenever we have a good monsoon, agriculture is going to have a better growth rate. And since we are a agriculture dominant country, any growth in agriculture also helps a growth in services as well as the manufacturing industry also. Moreover, because we are going to have a good monsoon, the water scarcity problem. For example, right now, cities like Bangalore and many other countries, many other cities in different parts of India also are facing this water scarcity problem. So, water scarcity problem, which can become a big issue, would also be tackled down by this monsoon. However, here the government, here the this editorial is arguing that it is good time that government should abolish 40% import duty on wheat. And why it is arguing? Because probably this year there won't be any bumper wheat production. So if we remove this 40% import duty, what is import duty? Basically, if someone from outside wants to import wheat in India, then he has to pay 40% import duty, which makes it impossible for an exporter from another country to send wheat to India. So here, this author is arguing that it would become very important for us that we remove this import duty so that he can focus on other crops also. So once we get wheat from outside, the farmers in India would be discouraged from going wheat because outside wheat is also coming. There would be competition. So it would force the farmers to move towards pulses and edible oils. And there are two reasons why farmers should move towards pulses and edible oil. एक तो मार्केट के अंदर इनकी प्राइसेस भी ज्यादा मिलती हैं एंड उसके अलावा इंडिया में भी इंपोर्ट डिपेंडेंट है. तो एक तो इंडिया की इंपोर्ट डिपेंडेंस भी कम हो जाएगी एंड इसके अलावा इंडिया को लोकल सोर्सेज भी मिलेंगे. सो दीज आर द टू रीजन why this editorial is arguing कि we should decrease or abolish the 40% import duty. Moving on to the next news. So there is this. So this is very important news. So Indian origin Gopi Thotakura heads to space. What is space tourism? So probably whenever the next flight is launched by Blue Origin. So Blue Origin is actually it's a space related startup. Space में जो startups हैं और it's a space tourism related startup. स्पेस ट्रेवल करने के लिए टूरिज्म के लिए एक स्टार्टअप लॉन्च हुआ है ब्लू ओरिजिन एंड इट इज ओन बाय अमेजॉन जेफ बिजोस. जेफ बिजोस का ये स्टार्टअप है, स्पेस स्टार्टअप है. एंड वेन एवर दिस स्टार्टअप इज गोइंग टू सेंड इट्स फर्स्ट स्पेस ट्रेवल, जब फर्स्ट टाइम स्पेस टूरिज्म के लिए किसी पर्सन को भेजेगा, देयर वुड बी वन पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन. रिमेंबर ही इज नॉट एन इंडियन, ही इज ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन एंड हिज नेम इज गोपी. OPT is the name, and he's going to be the first person to go there. Then it is talking about what is space tourism. So I hope you understood this. So one important scientific fact which has been given here is the Karman line, not Karma but Karman line, and it is the line around 100 kilometer above. तो अर्थ के सरफेस से अगर अपन 100 किलोमीटर लाइन देंगे तो एक इमेजिनरी लाइन को अपन डिक्लेयर करते हैं कैरमन लाइन, और वी कंसिडर्ड दिस लाइन एज अ बाउंड्री बिटवीन अर्थ एटमॉस्फेयर एंड आउटर स्पेस. सो इफ यू गो 100 किलोमीटर अबव द अर्थ सरफेस, देन इट इज बिलीव दैट यू हैव एंटर स्पेस. एंड जो ये स्पेस टूरिज्म के मिशन होंगे, ये पर्सन को अबव 100 किलोमीटर लेकर जाएगा. इट विल ऑल्सो हेल्प यू टू एक्सपीरियंस जीरो ग्रेविटी, और ये सब आप वहां पे एक्सपीरियंस कर पाओगे. यू वुड बी एबल टू सी अर्थ ऑल्सो इन इट्स फुल ग्लोरी. यू वुड बी एबल टू सी द ब्लू बॉल, जिसको बोलते हैं ब्लू ग्लोब, भी आप देख पाओगे. एंड ये वाला आपका मिशन होगा बेसिकली. दैट इज द स्पेस टूरिज्म. इसके बाद इसके चैलेंजेस बताए हुए, यू कैन गो थ्रू द चैलेंजेस ऑल्सो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इट वुड बी वेरी एक्सपेंसिव. इट कैन एक्चुअली कॉज एनवायरमेंटल डैमेज और ग्रीन हाउस गैसेज एक्सेट्रा अपर लेयर के अंदर, ये सब भी है. Safety is also a concern, etc. Because although we are regularly sending we rockets into space, but still space is a very hostile environment, and there would always be safety issues there. So you can read this, but for GK purposes, only knowing the name of this person would be enough for you, right? And this Karmal. Moving on. So this is the last article. So Indian Express का article है Israel's weapon that spotted iron attack. तो ईरान ने जो अटैक किया था और उसमें से 99% मिसाइल्स को कर पाया. What is the name of that air defense system? And this very system is known as Iron Dome. Iron Dome is actually the multi-layered air defense system of Israel. Okay, apart from this Iron Dome, there is another system known as Aero system. Aero system is also part of Iron Dome. So it's a multiple system. What is there in the Iron Dome? So there is a radar unit. So whenever a missile is launched, so there are many kinds of radars in this Iron Dome system, and it starts to track these rocket shells, etc. Next, when it is done, it processes this data, assesses the threat, and charts and interception part. So basically क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे कि एक बार जब रेडार से आपको आइडिया लग गया कि there might be some kind of projectile, some kind of missile being sent towards you, तो कंट्रोल यूनिट के अंदर जो सारे सिस्टम्स होंगे ये डेटा को असेस करेगा, थ्रेट दिखेगा, और उसके हिसाब से इट विल स्टार्ट फिलिंग अप द गैप्स कि अगर ये एक एंटी मिसाइल लॉन्च करता है तो उसका पाथ क्या होगा. And finally, a firing unit, third part would be the firing unit, which is going to send the missile. जो एंटी मिसाइल होएगा, जो मिसाइल आ रही है उसको डिस्ट्रॉय करने के लिए जो मिसाइल थ्रो करी जाएगी विद द हेल्प ऑफ radar, स्पेशल एक्सेट्रा, दिस वुड बी सेंड. तो ये 3 स्टेज सिस्टम है आयरन डोम, which has been helpful in helping Iran tackling the missiles which were being launched by the Iran system. के अलावा डेविड स्लिंग एक्सेट्रा, स्पाइडर, दीज आर ऑल्सो मेंशन. ये सब भी आपके मोबाइल सिस्टम है, नेवल सिस्टम एक्सेट्रा है. फॉर एग्जांपल देयर इज वन सी ड्रोम ऑल्सो, सी डोम, आयरन डोम का नेवल वर्जन. तो अगेन यू कैन रीड अबाउट दिस ऑल्सो, देयर आर सर्टेन फैक्ट्स ऑल्सो गिवन. तो इसको भी दिस वुड ऑल्सो बी एन इंटरेस्टिंग रीडिंग. हाउएवर जीके पर्पज से आपको आयरन डोम पता होना चाहिए. यू शुड नो कौन सी कंट्री के पास है, किस कंट्री ने इसको डेवलप करा, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. एरो सिस्टम, डेविड स्लिंग सिस्टम और स्पाइडर सिस्टम, ये बेसिकली क्या सिस्टम्स हैं एंड कौन सी कंट्री इनको ओन करती है, दिस ऑल्सो यू शुड नो. Okay, so with this, we are done with the Hindu and the Indian Express news analysis. Now it's time to look at the questions. So we have already discussed all of these questions in the today's analysis also. So it would only be a quick marking activity for the questions now. So which state has the highest number of left-wing extremist affected districts in India? As we have already discussed, it is the state of Chhattisgarh. Next, Naxalism is a left-wing extremist movement in India. It began in 1967 in the village of Naxalbari, which is in which state? It's in West Bengal. Next, Border Security Force is fighting Maoists in left-wing extremist affected areas. Who is the current Director General of BSF? And the answer is Nitin Agarwal. K.F. Rustamji was the first BSF director, and current one is Nitin Agarwal. He was a previous Director General of BCF and also of CBI. And Praveen Sood is actually the current Director General of CBI. Next, which of the following ministry is responsible for maintenance of internal security and domestic policy in India? And the answer is Ministry of Home Affairs. Next, what is the name of the indigenous assault rifle developed by DRDO? And the answer is Ugram. So as you can see, the first five questions are relevant questions with regard to the Naxalism news, Naxal news. आपकी माओइस्ट वाली न्यूज आई है. Such if I have to guess what kind of passage the CLAT examiner can frame from this Naxalism issue, these 5 kind of question can actually come in your exam. So that's why I frame these 5 questions. Okay, so you should know the answer to these 5. Moving on. Baba Ramdev was asked to apologize by the Supreme Court for contempt in which of the following cases? So again, front page news है आपकी बाबा रामदेव की. You should know कि actual में issue क्या है. Is it for selling of spurious medicine? Was it a defamation issue? Was it misleading advertisement? Or was it fraud? So answer would be C, misleading advertisement. Next, the 2024 Lok Sabha election will elect which of the following Lok Sabha? तो प्रेजेंट लोकसभा इलेक्शन जो हो रहे हैं उससे कौन सी लोकसभा इलेक्शन होगी? सो आंसर वुड बी 18th लोकसभा. Next, in which of the following cases the Supreme Court held that there is no fundamental right to marriage in India? So answer would be Supriya Chakrabarti versus Union of India. So do not think कि these questions या जो क्वेश्चन मैं पूछ रहा हूँ वो हिंदू न्यूज एनालिसिस में नहीं कवर्ड है. तो हिंदू न्यूज एनालिसिस में वो कवर्ड नहीं होंगे बिकॉज उसमें एक्सप्लेन करने को कुछ नहीं है. बट these are all from your हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर. ये केस का नाम भी आपको आज के हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर में एडिटोरियल पेज में मिलेगा. Next, the electronic voting machines were first introduced on a trial basis in an assembly constituency of Paravur in Kerala in which year? So answer is 1982. We have discussed this also. Next, from which of the following elections EVMs were backed with 100% VVPAT in all constituencies? We also know this that it was 2019 Lok Sabha election. Next, India has allowed FIIs to invest in its green bonds. What are sovereign green bonds? So sovereign green bonds are actually Indian government issued bonds for domestic environmental projects. So again, if you will look at the text in context page, their sovereign gold bonds, green bonds have been explained. In very self-explanatory type article, you would read it and you would be able to understand it also. Next, initiated for critical and emerging technology. It's an initiative between which two countries? So it's an initiative between India and United States. Next, IMF has forecasted India's economic growth to be 6.8% this fiscal year. Which of the following report is published by IMF? So we have discussed this also. World Economic Outlook, in which India's GDP has been forecasted to be 6.8%. Next, the merger of G Entertainment and which other company has been cancelled, leading to a civil dispute between the companies. So answer would be between Z and Sony. The merger has now been cancelled by Sony. Okay, this was also from Hindu newspaper. Next, which countries are involved in the conflict over the Nagorno-Karabakh region? So again, Nagorno-Karabakh region was in news last year also, and it is continuing in news because a case is ongoing between these two countries in ICJ, International Court of Justice, and the answer is again Azerbaijan. Next, Sri Lanka is dealing with debt crisis and is entering into debt management plan with India and the Paris Club. What is the Paris Club? So Paris Club is actually an informal group of crediting nations. So it's not a small group. There are around 30 to 33 nations. Most of the developed countries like US, UK, France, etc. are part of this. And what they do is, so Paris Club usually decide on certain terms on which they are going to give loans or they are going to give debt or loans to a particular country. And Sri Lanka has actually taken loan from these countries under this Paris Club agreement. And right now it is trying to create a management plan because it is not able to fulfill its debt crisis. Okay, so it's a informal group of creditor nation. Next, Old Stock Exchange in Copenhagen, Denmark is one of the Danish capital's best known landmark was destroyed in fire. So again, a fact has also been introduced here. So remember, you should know this also, where this fire has taken place. So it took place in Copenhagen. Now the question is what? Which stock exchange holds the distinction of being the oldest in the world? So remember, so is this Copenhagen Stock Exchange, old stock exchange? Was it the oldest stock exchange of the world? Was it the New York? Was it London or was it Amsterdam? So it's not Copenhagen, but it's the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, which is the oldest stock exchange of the world. Next, which of the following player has won the 2024 Boston Marathon when? So the answer here is Cisse Lima, who has won the men's athletics in 2024 Boston Marathon. Next, who has been declared as a leading cricketer in the world by Wisden? So Wisden is a cricket magazine known as the Bible also of the cricket book. And who has been declared as a leading cricketer in the world by Wisden for this year? So it is Pat Cummins. And finally, the last question. So 2024 Olympics are being hosted by Paris, France. Who is the current president of International Olympic Committee? So now Olympics are going to be held this year, which means Olympics are very important. So we are going to cover it in detail someday. And this is being hosted by Paris. Once the Olympics start, we have to pay attention or focus on the different tournaments which are being different competitions which are being hosted in the Olympics. So the simple question is, who is the current president of the International Olympic Committee, which is basically responsible for regulation of the Paris Olympic Games? So the answer here is Thomas Bach, who is the current chairperson or president of the International Olympic Committee. So class, that's it from my side. I hope you had a really good or learning environment for today. And I hope to see you soon when we take on the important news headlines from the Hindu newspaper and the Indian Express in our next session. So that's it from my nice evening.